Hey hun, welcome to my live stream paparazzi jewelry party. I don't know when the transformation to MLM mom happened, but here I am. And I've got some leggings in my car. I do say that when you see me in this eye look with the outfits that don't match, I ordered 3 new dresses. And I did this eye look thinking that I would wear those dresses. And then the dresses didn't fit right with my tatas. And so I wasn't able to film with them. And so I had this, which was part of a mystery box from X Plus Wear. And when you pay $89 to get 10 items, beggars can't be choosers. And I didn't get to choose. This chose me. I didn't choose the MLM mom life. The MLM mom life chose me, hun. Hello, Champagne Dreamers. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome. I promise I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I'm not an MLM. I am Miss Janessa J. Champagne, and I am North Dakota's trash queen of glam, geek, and gore. So hit that subscribe button and stick around. For today's video, we're going to be doing something that I saw a couple of YouTubers that I really enjoy, Queer Bones and Nikki Raven. They did this tag. I think other people have been doing this. It's been kind of floating around for a while, but those are the two that really inspired me to do it. And it's getting cutthroat. It's getting declutter to the extreme. It's all about if you had to clear out everything from a brand except for one palette, what are you gonna keep? I've done a lot of makeup Thunderdomes, and I thought, well, wouldn't I just pick the palette that I like the best? But as I went into it and as I was thinking about it, it wasn't always the case. So we're gonna go ahead and count down 10 palettes that I would keep if I had to get rid of every palette from a brand except for one. So if you're ready for that, then go ahead and get comfortable. We're getting into it right now. You may have noticed that I've been doing a lot more top 10s recently. You know, I've just been in the mood. I've been inspired. I love a top 10.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that I paid an exorbitant amount of money to license a piece of stock footage that included a neon countdown.
It just feels right. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is a video that I saw pop up recently by Queer Bones. Now, I saw this and I was like, you know what? I would love to do this. And I think they said in their video that they had to pick a brand where they had at least 3 palettes. And I was like, that's a little too easy for me. So I decided to pick 10 brands that really represent kind of my makeup journey and decide to go through. Now, some of them are brands that I have absolutely done a Thunderdome with, where I've gone through and I've looked at all the palettes that I've had and I've ranked all the palettes. And for a lot of those, I've added new palettes to my collection since those videos came out. And I was really surprised that I wasn't always picking my favorite palette from the brand. A lot of times there would be something specific about a palette that I really loved. And so I decided to keep it over my favorite. Or maybe I felt like my favorite would duplicate something that I could get from the one palette I would keep from another brand. So I'm excited to jump into this. I hope you are too. The first brand that I want to talk about is ABH. Anastasia Beverly Hills. And this is one of the ones that really surprised me. That's why I thought this would be a good place to start, because I remember when I did that Thunderdome, which you can check out right here if you missed it, I made it very clear that I love the Norvina palettes more than I like any of the regular ABH palettes. I just do. I like those big palettes. I think the color stories are beautiful. I love that you get like 25 shades. I feel like 25 shades for $60 is better than their like 12 or 14 for like $45. I just don't get it. I love the Norvina collection. It's bright, it's colorful, it's fun. But that's not what I would keep. If I had to get rid of all of my ABH collection except for one, the one that I would keep would be the Alyssa Edwards collab palette. I love this, and the reason why I would keep this is because, number one, we are in trying times. If you are a drag performer, if you're a queer person, if you're a trans person, in a red state especially, people are coming for you, they're coming for your bag, they're coming for your business, they're coming for your very identity and your ability to exist. So, number one, I would want to support a sister. I love Alyssa Edwards. I think she's fun. She's very kooky, she's very quirky, but also I think that this palette is really good as kind of a basic drag palette. If I was somewhere where I forgot to bring my makeup and I had to do a show and I needed to just like throw stuff together, if I could find this palette, I could do a full drag look. I love that it's got a matte black, it's got a matte white, it's got several of these neutral transition-y kind of shades, and then we've got some like staple brights. We've got a hot pink matte and a hot pink shimmer. We've got a purple matte, a purple shimmer. We've got these two plummy colors, this bright yellow, this bright blue. This is a beautiful, like just simple, I need to throw it together and get going drag palette. So I absolutely love this. I would absolutely keep this. Even though I love those Norvina palettes, if I had to think about what's one palette going to bring to my collection, what is it going to bring to me in the moment, this is really the one that I'm like, she's got to stick around. The second brand that I want to talk about is Too Faced. And this is me being nostalgic because the old days of Too Faced, they used to have some real bangers. And if I had to look at my Too Faced collection, I have a fair number of palettes. I have decluttered a fair number of palettes from the brand. But if I had to think about what is the one that I would keep, this is the last time that I was truly excited, like just excited, like giddy, about a Too Faced release. And that's the Life is a Festival palette. I love this unicorn palette. In fact, this palette is so nice, I bought it twice. I never buy backups of things because I don't go through them. So in my collection, especially eyeshadow palettes, like obviously backups of foundation and stuff like that, but when it comes to like eyeshadow palettes, it's very rare for me to hit pan on even a single shade. But I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I have this for a long time. And so this is one of the 3 palettes in my collection that I actually have a backup of. I love this so much. These shimmer duochromes are so beautiful, and they never really transfer on camera, and that's fine. Maybe I'll try to do a zoom in on this to show you, but like there's really deep dips in these two. I've used these a lot. There's a pretty good dip in this shade right here. This one has gotten quite a bit of use. I love these shimmers. They are such good quality. They're so beautiful. And this was before a lot of brands started doing, you know, duochrome, multi-chrome kind of shades. And Too Faced really hit it out of the park. This yellow is so beautiful. It's got a little bit of a greenish shift to it. It's so gorgeous. It's just so good. And this really was the last time that I was truly excited about a Too Faced release. And a lot of people missed out on this because a lot of people were like, oh, it looks like kids' makeup. Why do they have all this like sexual innuendo, but then they have stuff that looks like it belongs at Claire's, and they were all pissy about it. And it's like, yeah, but you missed out on these beautiful, beautiful shades. And at the time, there weren't a lot of other palettes that were doing things like this, not from mainstream brands. You couldn't find this from a lot of other brands, and it's too bad. The third brand I want to talk about, this really kind of makes me sad. And that is Juvia's Place. When I think about Juvia's Place, this is the newest one. This is the Candy Shop. And this is the one that I would keep. And this is a beautiful collection of pinks and blues and purple with some beautiful neutrals. The reason why this makes me sad is because I would just keep this because it's the newest. It's fun. It's caught my attention right now. But something has happened with Juvia's Place where it just feels kind of disposable in my collection now. I remember when Juvia's wasn't pumping out palettes all the time, when they had a new release, that was like a big fucking deal. And I remember the Tribe palette. I do still love that Tribe palette, but I just was like, you know what? The Tribe palette, I've got a lot of those shades and other things. It was mostly just really revolutionary because of the color story and the way it put colors together. But I've got those colors individually. And I was like, this one's new. It's caught my attention. But if this were even to go for my collection, I wouldn't probably miss it a lot. And it makes me sad because I do love Juvia's Place. And don't get me wrong, Juvia's quality is amazing. I love the Juvia's Place eyeshadows. I love their foundations. I love their lip products. I do really like the brand, but it just doesn't feel as special anymore. So I think that's kind of one of the downsides of a brand becoming bigger and producing more and more and more products, is that it has less hold on my imagination. So this one is just here because it's the newest. It's the one that's kind of flirting with me today. If there was a new palette tomorrow that caught my eye, this one might fall out of the running. Sorry. The next brand that I want to talk about is BH Cosmetics. And I don't know what's up with BH Cosmetics. They were in trouble and they filed for bankruptcy protection and they got bought out by iHeart Revolution. But iHeart Revolution has been having all kinds of trouble. And they put out a couple of BH Cosmetics collections. And people seem generally pretty happy about them. They seem to think they were pretty good. But I don't know if they're ever going to return back to really the heyday of BH Cosmetics. Now, when I think of the absolute heyday of BH Cosmetics, I think of the Sweet Shop palettes. And I have all the Sweet Shop palettes, and I couldn't pick one of those because to me, it's about having them as a set because they're only 8 shades, they're monochromatic, and so I was like, I could pick the green one because I do love a green palette, but I've got a green palette later on that we're going to talk about. And I was like, the oranges are really pretty, the pink reds are really gorgeous, but I was like, for me, that's about having that set. So if I had to pick one, I would pick the Blueberry Muffin palette. And this whole like brunch collection was so good. So they had 3 eye palettes in this brunch collection: Blueberry Muffin, Avocado Toast, and Mimosa. And Mimosa is kind of like pinky corally with neutrals. Avocado Toast is green with neutrals. And Blueberry Muffin is cool toned blues with neutrals. So I love these cool tone like periwinkle cornflower blues. And I love that they really kind of put together a few pops of bright color with these more neutral colors, and the neutrals are very cool toned. So if I had to keep one, I would keep this one because I think it brings something really interesting, and it represents when BH Cosmetics was really at their best. And I love that this is really such a complete way of doing some color with some neutrals, but the neutrals aren't just boring, they're not expected. It's a really interesting sort of palette. So BH, it would be tough to get rid of those other brunch palettes. I love the brunch face palettes. I absolutely adore the Sweet Shop palettes. But if I can't have all the Sweet Shop palettes, I don't want none of them. So I would keep this one, the Blueberry Muffin. Next up, let's talk about why I didn't keep the Avocado Toast palette, is because this brand has the ultimate green palette. It's everything that I need. It's what I'm wearing on my eye look today is just this palette, and that's Jeffree Star Cosmetics and the Blood Money palette. Now, I know Jeffree Star is a controversial figure. I keep mentioning it, and I promise I am still planning to do a whole, like, more deep dive into Jeffree Star and how I've felt about him over the years and how I feel about him now and all this kind of stuff. And now he's even gotten himself in some trouble again, where he's like, I don't understand why people need they, them pronouns. I don't like labels. I don't understand it, blah, blah, blah. And so he's kind of getting in some trouble. And I want to talk more about Jeffree Star in another video. Just know that, like, I'm aware, I'm thinking about it, I'm always kind of making decisions. But in terms of, if I was only going to keep one palette, this is the ultimate green palette for me. This is just such a beautiful collection of greens. In my look today, I used this on the inner corner and to highlight under the brow. I used this matte Chameleon Fetish, Heavy Weighted, Crocodile Tears. I used Poison Ivy and Emerald Estate, and then I darkened the outer part with Secret Stash and Black Card Limit. It's just a beautiful green palette. There's so many beautiful looks that you can do. I love that it's got greens that skew a little bit more blue toned and a little bit more yellow toned. So rather than just having just the warmer yellowy greens or just the more emeraldy blue greens, it's got a good mix of both and they all work together. It's just the perfect green palette that I need in my life. So I know he's a problematic person and I'm still working through my feelings about him, and there's going to be a whole video where we talk much more about it and about cancel culture. But in terms of this video, in terms of figuring out if I had to get rid of all of my palettes except for one from a brand, from this brand, it would be the Blood Money palette. I would never need another green palette again. I mean, I'm going to keep buying green palettes, obviously. I'm just saying I don't need to. Next up is Melt Cosmetics. So Melt Cosmetics has gone through the Thunderdome twice. The first time, I was trying to bridge the gap of the fact that I feel like with Melt, the quality is really up and down. And so sometimes I'll really love a color story, but then the performance is not great. Sometimes the performance is amazing, but the color story doesn't inspire me. And so I ranked them first just on performance and then on the color story and the packaging and all of that. But then I was like, you know what? You can't really do that because unless you're going to just have makeup to display, which is kind of ridiculous, unless it's makeup that you bought and you used and it's gotten old. I do have some of those pieces. I'm not ridiculous, I swear. Let me live. But so for this one, I was like, you know what? What is the palette that I would keep from Melt Cosmetics? And again, the one that won the ranking would be the Smoke Sessions palette because I love those greens. But if I was like, I have to get rid of everything in my collection except for one, the one that I would keep is not the Smoke Sessions palette. It's actually the Muerte palette. So this was a holiday collection a few years ago, and they had the Vita palette and the Muerte palette. And both of them had just beautiful color stories. The Vita was like some brown, some red, a like shocking orange, and some limey greens. And then for this one, I just absolutely am so inspired by the way they paired these kind of turquoisey greens, this kind of seafoam green, and this teal into this like dark navy blue, and then into this burgundy and red with this pop of champagne. This color story is so interesting to me. And even though I didn't find the performance on this to be great, the color story just inspires me so much because it's a weird combination that you don't see very often, but it's lovely. And so like these reds with these greens, it's a way to do this like complementary opposite on the color wheel kind of colors without just looking like Christmas, because you've got this more burgundy red and you've got this more kind of seafoam green. So beautiful. I absolutely love this. This is one of my favorite. This Amor Eterno collection. Both of them are beautiful. If I had to choose between the Muerte and the Vita, it's going to be the Muerte. So pretty. The next brand that we're going to talk about is Glamlite. Now, I do have to say, in my pile, because of the move and everything that was going on, I'm way behind on makeup reviews and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't had a chance to try the Strawberry Shortcake palette or the Chucky palette. I have both of them, but I haven't played with them, so they couldn't really be considered. But even, I don't think they would have knocked this one out of the way, because the Glamlite palette that I would keep if I had to get rid of everything but one is the Burger palette. I know, who saw this coming? I love the Ice Cream Dream palette. I love the Cake palette. Those are two like beautiful rainbow pastel kind of palettes that I think are really gorgeous. I love them. I love, love, love the Dirty Martini palette. That's another green one, but again, it doesn't really give me anything that I can't get from the Blood Money palette. So what I get from this that really makes me want to keep it over any of the others, first of all, there's the 4 green shades, which I do really love. And I feel like these are somewhat different from the greens that I get in Blood Money. And I love them with these bright pops of red. Again, that complementary across the color wheel sort of thing. And also the last thing that really pushed this into the top spot is the Blue Cheese and Thousand Island shimmers. These shimmers are so beautiful. I'm gonna try, I haven't been swatching, but I'm gonna just put these on my fingertips. I love these. I think they are so beautiful. This is such a fun color story, and I love that they brought in this yellow and gold, a little bit of orange. I just really love this red and green and orange color story together. I think it's very unique, and I think that these two shimmers are just stunning. So if I had to keep one, I'm gonna be a burger bitch all day long. Burgers aren't the only way that I like Five Guys. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorite queer-owned brands, and that's Lunar Beauty. I love Lunar Beauty, and they have absolutely gone through the Thunderdome. Go ahead and check that out here if you haven't already seen it. And for this one, you know what? The Thunderdome was right. I love the Strawberry Dreams palette. This, to me, is such a great option. It's so beautiful. First of all, get into this packaging. Lunar Beauty always does a fantastic job with their packaging, but this especially, with this raised moon, it does make it a little bit of a pain to store, but not too bad. But I love this 3D moon, and it's all iridescent and beautiful. and then you open it up, and this is just such a perfect pink berry palette. You get so many options of pink berry shades. You get this bright popsicle red, and then you get some that are leaning a little bit more purple. And if you want to take it more purple, you've also got these two blues. So you can mix those with the red and berry shades to get all different kinds of purples. Or if you just want to put in a pop of blue with these two shades and this kind of blue shifty shimmer, you could do an all blue look out of this. I mean, it really is just like a almost monochromatic palette that gives you a surprising number of options, because you've got these little things like the blues and that blue glittery shimmer. You've got this gold, so you can kind of take it in a different direction, make it unexpected. So I really love this. This is my favorite. It was my favorite in the Thunderdome, and if I could only keep one, this would be it. The original Life's a Drag was a close second, but I still would have to keep this one. We all know that I've been living for my Trixie Cosmetics products lately, even if the bitch refuses to restock Bobble lipstick. I swear I'm never gonna be over that. If you want to check out my Trixie Cosmetics Thunderdome, you can see that here. I love her eyeshadows and her blushes, but when I was looking at the eyeshadow palettes and thinking about what's the one that I would keep, what's the one that really brings something to my collection, I had to go with the Girl Talk palette. This one is such a beautiful 90s dream of bright shades. I love this yellow. I love these two greens, these pinks, this purple, this light turquoisey leaning blue. I just think that this is such a beautiful palette. It's such a like 90s kids fantasy. I absolutely think that this is beautiful. So you know what? Plant Gay has some beautiful greens, but I've got other greens that I like better. Juno Birch, kind of a disappointment all around. I love me some Juno Birch, but you know what? When I really think about all of the palettes that she's done, this one is the one that I'm like, this is the one that I absolutely have to keep. This is the best. It's just the best. Simply the best. Better than all the rest. Now for the last one, I decided to talk about Morphe. I have decluttered a lot of my Morphe, and I've talked before, I think on this channel, but also like on Facebook Lives and things, that I feel like I've gotten to a place where I've kind of moved past Morphe. I think that it's a great brand for people who are getting into makeup and learning about it, because they've got still a pretty good price point. It's started to creep up there, but they've generally got a fairly good price point. You get a lot of shades. The quality for most palettes is okay to pretty good. Some of them occasionally are trash, but they're overall pretty good. But there's nothing that really kind of inspires me. And when I think about Morphe, if I was like, oh, what's the one palette that I would keep and I have to get rid of everything else? You can kind of take them all. And I know that Morphe is going through tough times. I don't want to kick them while they're down. Jen Love has been doing amazing coverage of the Forma brand's bankruptcy filings. They're the parent company that owns Morphe, and they are going through it. And she has uncovered all kinds of interesting things about Morphe and Jaclyn Cosmetics, which, as she can tell from the court papers, has never been owned by Jaclyn Hill. Like, it's a whole lot. But there's just nothing that I absolutely have to have. Now, I do have to say that this Lisa Frank palette. So I do have to say that this Lisa Frank palette that they did, this absolutely tugs on my heartstrings, because I was little closeted queer boy that wanted a unicorn Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper more than anything else in the world. And I finally got to have something like it with this Morphe palette. And so this does tug on my heart a little bit, but it's just a big fucking rainbow palette. I've done a look with this. I did one for Face Friday that turned out really good, but it's not that special. These shimmers are not, they're just satiny shimmers. They're not anything that's really wild. If the makeup police were at my door and they were like, get rid of everything but one, I'd be like, take it all. Could I get the Morphe credit in another brand? Is there a brand that I could keep two of if I get rid of everything from Morphe? This is the one that if I was forced to keep one, it would be this one for nostalgia reasons, but I just don't need it. I feel like I have gone beyond Morphe. I haven't been inspired by anything. Anything that I have used, I feel like the quality hasn't been anything that really excites me or makes me want to work with it. Sorry about your bankruptcy. All right, that is the video. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know down below, for these 10 brands, what are the palettes that you would keep? Would you keep the same palettes that I did? Is there another favorite that you would keep instead? Is there something that you're like, no, I can't believe you would get rid of that palette. How could you? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Let's talk about the kind of things we would keep. It's like decluttering to the max. It's like extreme declutter. And I'm so glad that I don't actually have to do it because it would break my heart. But if I did have to do it, these are the choices I would make. While you're down there, don't forget to give me that thumbs up. Or if you're a Morphe fan and you're like, you're just a bitter old bitch, I'm going to take away your Lisa Frank palette because you don't deserve it, you whore. Then you know what? Go ahead and give me that thumbs down because it's all engagement. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch. And neither am I. While you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads. I try my best to upload at least one video a week, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you might even get a bonus video. Ooh, special. If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked down in the description box below, including a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at JanessaJ.com. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. I love that you stick around for my MLM mom shenanigans. And I am happy to have you, and there's only more and more to come. So until I see you again, bye. Oh no.
Just leave it for now. Or did you drop a
I
pop?
have to see it. No, I dropped a pallet.
Finish your thing before you...
It's the Trixie! I have to make sure it
Uh-oh.
survived. Oh, one of the purples, there's a little bit of crunch and munch, but it looks like it's still in there. Okay,
And
good.
you're going to put it right back on.
Yep, right where it was. So it can fall again.
God.
You shut your whore mouth. So if you're ready to watch that, if you're ready to watch it, burgers aren't the only place that I like. Five Guys.
Burgers aren't the only place that you like Five Guys.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, so maybe not place. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch, and neither am I. Just ask the Five Guys.
Good throwback.
Ah, yeah, you're a restaurant.
Uh-huh. Let's